listening to New Horizon, the podcast, providing solutions for today and tomorrow. Through in-depth research, statistics, discussions, and so much more. Join us as we tackle real-life situations that plague the African society. Be an agent of change today and help us pave a way for the renewed understanding of Mother Africa. Give us your valued feedback and suggestions and be part of the solution today and facilitate the unified growth of our community. Change starts with you. I would like to kick off this midweek podcast by just highlighting a few issues that, affect me and affect a lot of people. My name is Kumbula, and originally I'm from Zimbabwe. I spent a few years of my life in South Africa and then moved back to Zim and studied abroad and, went back home, I guess. So, the main issue which I have here is, the perception which the rest of the world has, specifically on Zim, but also on other African countries per se, and Africa as a whole. When I mean those other countries, I mean countries which are not African countries, i.e. the rest of the world. What type of perception do they have of us as Africans? Well, what I think, not really what I think, but what I've really observed is that to some extent, to a greater extent actually, the rest of the world views us Africans as, they don't really think that we're capable of doing anything, honestly speaking. They just think that we are, backwards, that we're just a group of people who are in a backwards society, who are not capable of even governing themselves, who are not capable of looking after themselves, who at some times, are not civilized, and that's what they think. Unfortunately, that's what they think. Of course, sometimes they may try to hide it, but that's exactly what's going on. Somehow when people try to hide these things, the truth always comes out at the end of the day, and you see it wherever you go. So, why am I bringing up these topics today? Bring up these topics because I believe that we as Africans, we have a duty to ourselves. We have a duty to our community. We have a duty to our own countries and even Africa as a whole, to make Africa great. Let us not listen to what Europeans are saying, what Americans or Australians are saying, because everything that they say is going to be negative. Look at the news which they print. How many times do they print out good things about Africa or even your own country? My country, for example, Zimbabwe, we're going to look at this stuff just now. You'll just see that the things which they say, it's always the negative stuff. Yeah? Do they ever say anything positive about Africa, about Zim even? Do they ever say anything positive? No. Even you see the documentaries which they post, it's always magnification of the bad issues. They never glorify anything that's good that happens in Africa. The most recent thing which they really glorified was the World Cup, But apart from that, a high percentage or majority of the reporting or the majority of the issues which are published, for the internet or whatever, are always negative things. And again, like I said in the beginning, I'm from Zimbabwe and I am actually patriotic about my own country. However, with me being patriotic, I'm not the type of person who's patriotic in a way that, that I am blind to the negative side of things. I am patriotic, but I'm not biased. I'm not biased when it comes to the issues which affect my own country. If there are problems, yes, I admit that there are problems in my country, but are there solutions to those problems? Yes, there are solutions to those problems. Are people doing things about that? Yes, some people are doing things and some people are not doing things about it, right? Most recently, we had a cyclone which ripped through southern Africa. Cyclone Idai, or Idai. I really don't know how people are pronouncing this, but we had that cyclone, right? And I mean, to the world, it was just, a form of just washing away all the dirt, pretty much, right? Non-civilized areas just getting damaged by the rain. That's what the world saw, really. But of course, they just reported all the negative stuff, busy talking about, there's so much destruction, there's this, there's that, governments aren't doing anything, people are dying, and even the videos and everything which they posted, it was just terrible stuff which they posted. Yes, those things did happen. Yes, they did happen. But what then also was happening at the same time, you saw that people, natives of those countries, were working together and doing something about it. I was pretty amazed with the response which Zimbabweans had when it came to this problem. Yes, of course, the government had its own agenda, but I'm not a politician, so I won't really go into politics or government issues or whatever. I'm here for the people. So I was really... I was honored. I was happy when I saw that people in Zim were working together, regardless of even color or whatever. People were there and they were willing to help. They donated so much stuff, to the cause. And, with them donating, they just showed what they could achieve if they worked together. But of course that is not really interesting news for the rest of the world, right? It's more interesting for the rest of the world to see the failures of Africa rather than to see what makes us Africans great, even though, with this cyclone thing, yes, it did also affect Mozambique and Malawi, and yes, they were also not really attempts, but they were actually measures which were taken by other countries, other Southern African countries, and even their own residents of these countries to actually try and assist. But of course, those things were never really publicized. Rather, they just publicized all the negative stuff about how the government was not prepared, how so many people are dying, and how there's cholera now and things like that. It's always just a negative picture about Africa. So all I can say is that, we as Africans, we have a duty to perform, Let us change our mindsets. Let us not let people think that is what Africa is like, or that's what Zim is like, or Namibia or South Africa. You know yourself what your country is like. If you love your country, you will defend it by all means, and you will try by all means to make it better. Yes, I may sound like going around in circles over here, saying also don't listen to what they say. Don't listen to what they say, because they're only going to say negative things. However, as Africans, like I said, we have a duty, and that duty includes us, for example, praising all the good things that we do. If we do, for example, if you see, for example, in Zim, I'll talk about Zim, you saw how people were there giving donations and helping out. Those are things that must be publicized. Let the world know that is exactly what we are doing, and that is what's making us better than other areas. And yes, if we do have problems, I know we do have a lot of problems in our own country, and in other African countries there are problems. We must also, as citizens, take similar measures to try and solve those problems. If we work together, clearly this cyclone alone has already shown what we can achieve if we work together, right? Now, how about if we work together to tackle the other problems which face us in our own countries? Why can't we adopt that same mentality when it comes to solving problems? Why must we all just sit back and complain about how bad things are? Why don't we work together? Join hands and let's clear up all these problems, because definitely we can achieve so much if we work together. And clearly, by just seeing what happened with the cyclone, yes, it was a bad thing, it was a natural disaster. Yes, it was bad, but with it being bad, it gave way for us to show that, to show ourselves that, that we were capable of doing certain things, that we were capable of. It showed pretty much what we could do if we actually worked together more, So I'm just saying that, yes, we have our problems. So, we have our own national problems and whatever's, but I believe that if we work together, like I said, everything will be okay. I feel like I just deviated from my point already, But anyway, what I'm trying to say, again, I hope I'm still with you, is that don't let the media fool you. Don't let the West, like countries which are not in Africa, don't let them, install a negative picture of Africa. Because when you then go to those countries, like to Europe or whatever, the countries in Europe, or even go to America or Canada, they're going to have already a negative picture about you, and they'll think that you're primitive or whatever it is, think that you're not civilized, that you're dirty or this or that. These things, they do exist. Let us not be oblivious about this. These things exist. Yeah. So let me just try to give you an example so that maybe you can just visualize what I'm trying to say. Just for extended understanding or whatever it is. Let's say you wanted to buy a car and you knew nothing about that car. You knew nothing about the engine size, the reviews or whatever. You knew nothing about it. You just saw it in the street and you were just like, wow, that's a nice car and I want that car. And then somebody came to you, for example, and gave you information about that car and told you how terrible that car is, how much fuel it eats up, how uncomfortable the seats are, how even the parts, for example, cost, are so expensive, how the suspension is this, how the suspension is that, naturally you're not going to want that car, and naturally you're going to have a negative picture about that thing, right? You're gonna be like, oh my gosh, mind my language, by the way, this is a shit car. I don't want this car. From what I heard, I don't want that car. It's terrible. And that's the same thing. That is really the same thing which is going on in our world. Too much bad stuff is being said about us as Africans. Too many bad things are being said about our own individual countries. There's not enough, positive things coming out, for the world to see. There's no positive reporting about anything that goes on in our countries. And, even ourselves as people, are we there celebrating the good things about our own countries, or just there pointing out, the bad things? So, we're all liable to blame for these things. As people, I think that it is necessary for us to all, to make a change in how we perceive our own countries, our own continent. That these Europeans and the people from Australia and America, do you know that they love their countries so much? They have so much solidarity among each other, that side. Why don't we have that in Africa? Why don't we have that? You just ask yourself that. Of course, with North Africa, West Africa, Southern Africa, it has different traditions and stuff. And of course, you're not going to have 100%, unity and solidarity among the people. But, I'm not saying that it's not possible. It is possible. So, anyway, just a short, this is just a very short little podcast for today, just to get you guys to just think about some of these issues that are facing us in the world, that's exactly what they think about, about Africa, about your own country, the one in Africa. That's what they think, so it's up to you to make that change. And how do you make that change? You make that change by going back to your country and and making a difference. You make a difference by saying good things about your country, giving good reviews about your own country. Say the positive things, Yes, if they're negative things, you must also publicize those things so that there is awareness about those things. However, but don't get obsessed by just complaining and posting negative things about your own country. Say something positive for once. Yeah. Say more positive things than negative things. Wish more positive. Think positively about your own country. Think of ways to make your own country better. Let us stop praising, Europe and Australia and America and all those other continents. With their countries. Let us stop praising them. Let us start praising our own countries, our own regions, and our own continent. Let us start uplifting it, I was recently talking to a friend of mine, and I told him that, that the only people who actually give, much of a damn about you, if you do anything like positive or negative or whatever, the only people who actually care about that are the people from your country and the people from your region and possibly your own continent. You think people from Europe care about you as an African, about what you do, what you achieve? You think they care about that? Of course not. The only people who are going to care are the people, are your brothers and your sisters, the ones from Africa, the ones from your country and the countries which neighbor your country. Those are the only ones who are going to care. And they're the only ones who are going to relate to whatever problems that you face. And so that's just the mission for each and every single one of us. Make your own countries good, improve the lives of the people in your countries and also in Africa, and even in your specific region of Africa. Make changes, make positive changes in those areas. Well, thank you for reaching this point. Did not end up to be a short podcast, but anyway, it's a very, big topic for me. It's something which troubles me, like I said. I'm very passionate about my country, about Africa, I'm really passionate about these things. I really want to see a better continent, better Zimbabwe, better Southern Africa, better West Africa, better Africa as a whole. I really want to see those things. And I really hope that, that you, the listener, may also, feel the same at some point. I hope that, that you realize, that you see reality, what's really going on, and what, and the fact that, that we all have the opportunity to do something about it. Well, I hope that, that you'll join me in the next podcast. As usual, your views and opinions are, welcome. I really like to hear from you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next podcast. If you really did find this interesting or you want to hear more, just like and subscribe to the channel, and also share it if you really want to spread awareness and if you want to see a better Africa, a better continent, a better country for yourself as well. Well, thank you for paying attention. See you in the next one. You are listening to New Horizon, the podcast, providing solutions for today and tomorrow. Through in-depth research, statistics, discussions, and so much more. Join us as we tackle real-life situations that plague the African society. Be an agent of change today and help us pave a way for the renewed understanding of Mother Africa. Give us your valued feedback and suggestions and be part of the solution today and facilitate the unified growth of our community. Change starts with you.